Now we will see the concept of food safety. As you might be aware that there are a large number of incidences or the new news coming every day about the food safety incidents or food safety scandals happening all over the world, and the number of incidences are actually growing enormously. There are a large number of health implications or even deaths in many cases that are related with the feeding of on food which is unsafe. So this is a growing concern these days, although we have far more improved ways of processing, storage, and utilization of food. There's a lot more research that has been happened. But again, because the nature of food is so complex, so that always there's always a risk that food become unsafe and it can create undesirable outcomes in population at a larger scale. So if we talk about what food safety assurance is or what is food safety, it is a situation in which we can assure that the food that we consume, it is not going to cause the consumer any harm. When it is used as per its intended use. For example, if the food is, there must be certain condition in which food can be stored or it can be consumed. They always have an intended use. So if we go above that intended use and then consume that food, of course, this is not the liability of producer. That is the fault that would lie with the consumer. But otherwise, if it is used as per its intended use and then it causes harm, then it means the food safety principle is compromised, and the producer of the food, they might be punishable for this offense because this is treated as an offense. So we have to look at the responsibility on the producer end, that they have to meet all the requirements that are related to safety of the food that has been set. So they would be actually meeting all the requirements that make up a situation in which the food does not create any kind of hazard or any kind of illness or disease or any loss to human life when it is consumed according to the intended use. And this is only possible when the conditions that are related to the safety of food are all met according to the desired specified standards that are laid down by government as well as by the producer themselves as well. They have to lay down certain conditions and parameters in which the food becomes safe. So in order to achieve that situation, as I said, that this is a legal, it has got legal implication when the producer produces a food and that causes harm to the end user. So it means that they have got the responsibility to take care of a lot of things. And the principle for making these food safe, there could be three different approaches. For example, there might be harmful substances present in food. The first and ideal situation is that we remove or eliminate all these harmful substances from the food, so that when the food is consumed, there is no presence of any harmful substance. So as I said, this is an ideal condition. It is not actually possible all the time because food is a complex matrix. It is a very long supply chain of food, which is very complicated. It is complex. There are a lot of variable factors. There are a lot of weaknesses in all these farm to fork approach that the harmful substances can get into food. So in that case, when it is not possible to eliminate those harmful substances from the food, the second option would be actually to reduce the number of these harmful substances so that they do not create any health hazard when they are consumed. The second thing is to prevent the growth or prevent the increase in number of these undesirable substances that when present in certain amount can produce health hazards. So for example, in case of a pathogen, if we have, we can treat the food in a way that we destroy all the pathogens. For example, in case of sterilization, this is one condition. Another condition is, for example, in case of pasteurization, we might heat the milk gently, not as at high temperature, for example, in case of sterilization. This food, when it is heated, it would reduce the pathogen load. So this is the second condition. And the third condition would be actually to maintain the low temperature in which this food is stored, or maintain the desirable pH or other condition in which the pathogen would not grow to a certain level that causes disease. So these are the three approaches for food safety that has to be practiced by the producer, so that the final product is not hazardous for the end user. And there have to be a complete control on all the activities that are undertaken on the food before it is consumed. For example, it has to be prepared, handled, stored, and distributed in sanitary condition, in conformance with the standards that have been set by the government agencies or by the producer themselves. If we talk about the how we can actually do this, for example, the storage and cooking and distribution or processing, all of these practices that are done upon food, when they are done in a very controlled fashion, and when they are done under sanitary condition, there is a method called as GMP. It stands for good manufacturing practices. So good manufacturing practices are actually the guidelines that would tell you actually how to handle a food, how to store or distribute a food, so that it is not unsafe when it is consumed by the final consumer. So this was a little about the concept of food safety, what we do in food safety, and how we can ensure that food that goes to the end consumer, it is safe for consumption.